Hey, Marin here from indiebirth in my car again before I head into the gym for kind of a challenging workout. So I'm procrastinating a bit here, to be totally honest, but I have a few minutes to spare. You can see it's pretty cold, and I had a couple people look at me funny from the outside, wondering who the heck I was talking to, perhaps. But that's okay. I'm getting pumped up for my workout, and I'll be home before it's even super light. So yay for me today. Hannah would like to say hello. Okay, so I don't know what's going to come out here. You kind of never do on these lives, at least. But I wanted to talk more about this idea of birth trauma. And okay, that's a friggin' big topic, and I am not necessarily an expert on birth trauma, but I want to just kind of highlight what I think a few key points are. So let's let's rewind a little bit. The famous podcast that has been out there, many of you have listened to, The Honest Truth About Free Birth. And something we've heard, again and again and again since that podcast was released in all sorts of ways are women who do identify with having been traumatized in their births. And now this has nothing ultimately to do with free birth. We can be traumatized in any sort of birth. And then in subsequent births, we bring that in, and those births can be any which way. So it was simply, beginning the conversation. And the conversation is when we feel we can't trust someone, or we feel we've been traumatized in a birth, what do we do? What do we do going into the next experience, and how do we handle that? First of all, I think it's worth saying that people can be traumatized in any sort of situation, and it may not look that way to anyone on the outside, right? So trauma is simply an experience that we haven't processed, and so it kind of gets stuck in whatever ways, and, you can kind of view that as like a cellular memory, like our bodies literally remember the experience, whether that was fear or abuse or anger or whatever. And, we remember intellectually and emotionally in all the ways. So, I think some of the most honest comments we've gotten from this podcast have been women saying, that was hard to hear, but thank you. You called me out, and I need that, because I need to just recognize that the thoughts I'm having about this upcoming birth and how I want to do it, no matter what that way is based on fear. And so what a cool thing to acknowledge for yourself, what a cool realization to have, because hopefully, we learn eventually that decisions based on fear aren't always the right thing for us, So I guess the question is, if we feel like we've been traumatized and we can't trust anyone, what do we do? Do we take a path of wanting to regain trust in another person or not, And I don't think there's a right answer. I think it can look both ways. I think ultimately, can we regain trust in ourselves is the first question. And so again, this is why, free birth, not free birth, the conversation is so much bigger than that. It just so happens that I felt like it really applied, to, that in particular for that podcast, but it's wide reaching. So if we're choosing, we don't trust, then do we want to trust someone or not? And I don't have the answer. So maybe we choose it's not safe to trust someone, and we don't want to go there. So how do we begin to trust ourselves again? And that's a huge topic. And I feel like that's another podcast, I think it's first at a very simplistic level, identifying what we do want. So we had a traumatic birth, we had an awful birth, we had a horrific birth, whatever it is that you would use to describe. What do we want this time? So it's not, I don't want this, I don't want that. It's, I very much want this. It is very important to me that I have this. I visualize my birth. This is what I see. This is what I feel. And of course, there's all kinds of processing that's going to happen on that road to what you want. It's just natural. So there's a certain amount of willingness and I guess bravery almost to face the past, to face what you experienced and to say, it's no one's fault, it's not my fault, but I'm moving on. I'm moving on and I want this time. One really simplistic way that we begin to regain trust in ourselves. So once we feel like we start to trust ourselves again, and that might take some people an entire pregnancy. It might take years and years to trust your body again and to trust the choices you made, and to trust your intuition. Maybe your intuition really screwed you up, and you don't quite understand why you made the choices you did. These things take time, and they might take other support and resources and therapies. So no small feat. But once you start to regain trust in yourself, then perhaps regaining trust in another human being is possible for you. And again, it doesn't mean it has to be. Maybe once you regain the trust in yourself, you're good to go. Free birth, hospital birth, home birth, who cares? It doesn't actually matter, right? You're going to follow your heart. You're going to follow your path. So if you do decide after you've regained at least some trust in yourself, then you could consider beginning to trust another person. And, once you have that solid confidence and foundation in you, then my feeling is you're that much more stable to look for what you want in another person. And you can become really clear and commit yourself to being really honest with yourself and with them. I want this. I want this. What are your feelings about this? And you're going to hopefully find someone and seek someone out that really, really respects you, really hears and feels that you have been through trauma, and really just honors you for having walked through it to the other side, and you're working hard to create this vision you want. So I feel like these are the really fascinating conversations. People that aren't wanting to have them, there are those people, and they hear something like trauma can lead people to free birth, and they freak out because they identify with that, and it's personal and it's scary and it feels gross, and that's not the nicest feeling. I get it. But like I said, many, many women in the last couple of days especially have really given me confidence in speaking more about this issue, because it's not the type of birth you choose. Like, the people that heard that, and they were very few and far between, missed the message. And that's okay. The message is out there to hit those that resonate with it. And so moving on, this, I guess, video is for those moving on to the next step. Like, okay, I am someone that's identified trauma in my experience. What can I start to do to move through it? So that's it. I'm going to go hit my hard workout this morning. Wish me luck. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments below, as well as the private messages we've been getting. All right. Have a beautiful day, everyone. Bye.